What is good, my peoples? Welcome to another edition of the GreenBaje podcast. As always, that is AJ. He is the green. I am Ken. I am the beige. And welcoming back again for the second time in our new season is Mr. Justin Marville of hashtag this just in. What is going on, Justin? Glad to have you.
Boy, it was a lot going on in the NFL season, so I couldn't miss y'all trade deadline show when I saw a record 10 trades today. So I said there's no way I can miss Ken and AJ today.
Oh yeah, for sure. I
Glad to have
mean,
you.
it is indeed that is definitely true. We knew that you would have had your show last night. And
Oh,
then that would have put you know on a 6 day break before you get an opportunity to react to all of the madness that we had today, which is the theme of today's show. Multiverse of Madness. We're going to be doing a little bit of hopping around as we go. AJ, what about you, my brother? How you doing?
I'm good. I am good, bro. Like I was telling you all before, I had to be here because I'll be on a little sabbatical for the next couple of weeks. So I had to talk about today because I had reactions to every single trade that went down today, boy. So yeah, it was imperative.
Of course. So, for those of you who are joining us, we welcome you. We thank you for spending some time with us on this Tuesday evening. And of course, if you have not already subscribed to the GreenBaje podcast, this is your invitation to click that bell, subscribe, make sure that you are here with us, and don't forget to like this video. Now, as I said, this week's episode is called the Multiverse of Madness because a lot of madness happened, and we're going to be jumping around between two separate universes, the NFL and the NBA today. The NFL trade deadline has stolen all of the headlines with the most active deadline day in history. Many of the contenders have made moves to get some help to push them towards their dream of lifting the Lombardi, while others have gotten more draft capital to hopefully land the talent needed to vastly improve their rosters and be in a position to make a run themselves in another year or two. Of course, there are other teams who were conspicuous by their inactivity. Before we get to that, however, on the weekend, there were some talking points that came out from the games, but unfortunately, we will not have time to do justice to all of them. So we're going to have an abbreviated four down territory today off the rip. So Justin, we give you first crack as always. Biggest winner this weekend is who?
woo! Ah, didn't have me prepared for that. I gotta say, probably like in turn, I guess Buffalo Bills. Without thinking too much of what going on. I mean, obviously you were expecting this big 10-point favorite against Green Bay Packers, but you were allowed. Josh Allen didn't have his best game in the second half, and yet still you found a way to win by double digits. I'd also see like the Cleveland Browns also being able, for lack of a better word, to keep pace in the AFC North with that huge victory over the Cincinnati Bengals. I know they kind of owned them of most recent. And, to bite in time, I think Deshaun Watson comes back next week. So just being a couple out of the league in a very close, I mean, it's not like the AFC North has run away. Like it's not like Ravens have run away and gone anywhere. So to be within striking distance with Deshaun Watson coming out, I will see that the Browns, that big victory over Cincinnati, because you didn't want to be 2 games behind Cincinnati and then further behind Baltimore. Like this puts you in good stead going down now, and you have your slate of division games with your quarterback coming back now.
Oh yeah. What about you, AJ? Who is your biggest winner for this weekend?
Well, the Browns are who I was thinking, but since Justin mentioned them, I'll go in a different direction. I'll actually say the Commanders. No, granted, in big picture, this win does absolutely nothing for them except probably to build some confidence within the team. Um, it kind of just shows that the division. I mean, it did. I guess you could say it pulled them a little closer because the Giants lost. So the Giants, who were in second just a couple of weeks ago, are now like in third position in the division, 2 games ahead of them. But the fact that the Commanders are at 500, um, with the Wentz experiment having not worked, and just being in this position and not like ultimately like tanking, I think that sort of win. it should set a good precedent for them. It's a morale booster for the most part, but it was a big win against a cold side that is just deplorable, basically. But it was a that was a big win on the road. So I'll go with with a former home city.
Okay, no problem. So my turn. My biggest winner of this weekend, and I'm glad that neither of you picked it, but I didn't think that either of you would. So it leaves me to do it myself. And as you can see, I'm wearing my colors tonight. And that is my New Orleans Saints. My Saints were not supposed to be able to win this game this weekend. We went in with no Michael Thomas, no Jarvis Landry, no Bradley Roby, and crucially, no Marshawn Lattimore. We're going up against a premier wide receiver in Devontae Adams, and we were forced to roll out with second-year cornerback Paulson Adibo and rookie Alontae Taylor, and they acquitted themselves extremely well in this game. The Saints defense pitched a complete shutout of the Raiders, with Derek Carr only completing 15 of his 26 passes for 101 yards and a pick, and Josh Jacobs, who was the trending or hottest running back coming into this game, only getting 43 yards on 10 carries. But while I'm giving my defense their flowers, the story of the game was Alvin Kamara. His first three touchdowns of the season all came in this game. One on the ground, two through the air, 158 total yards. Now, one of the reasons that Andy Dalton has continued to get the start over Jameis is his consistent involvement of Kamara in the passing game. The Saints are one game out of the lead for the division. But of course, that is more about the paucity of the NFC South this season. So we do have a comment here. Um, Omar, he has said that the 49ers are his biggest winner this weekend. And I'm sure we're going to get some opportunities to talk about the 49ers tonight as well. Now, as we talk about this being the multiverse of madness, Justin has gone upside down somehow.
Justin, you're in the upside down.
Yes, we will give him an opportunity to get that taken care of, AJ. So let's move on to the biggest loser. The biggest loser of week 8 is who?
You kind of segued into it perfectly for me because the biggest losers would have to be the Raiders. There's so many names I want to call, but I'm trying to leave some for you guys. I want to say the Raiders because it is inexplicable that you would be unable to score a point. Not even a field goal. They have one of the best kickers in league. Their offense. I mean, I know the Saints' defense is like nothing to joke about, right? But a complete shutout with that offense. You're supposed to have one of, if not the best wide receiver in football. Derek Carr isn't supposed to be a scrub. I mean, people have bad days, but not a single point. That is, as the English would say, that's diabolic. That is terrible. I can't, and they already were scraping to keep up. That is just a terrible look. You could bounce back from that, but for this week, they have to be the biggest losers.
Okay, so Victor Ibuiki, he clearly
That's my
doesn't
first. That's my trainer.
he clearly doesn't
What
like
up,
my
Vic?
squad. He doesn't like my team. But that's fine, Vic. That's no problem. Is he a Raiders fan, AJ?
No. He's from here, so he's with the boys.
Oh, okay. I don't understand his vitriol then, but we'll just take that in stride. So my biggest loser of this weekend, and oh yeah, he said he's identified himself, Cowboys Nation. Okay, no problem, sir.
There we go.
Glad to have you. Glad to have you. You can subscribe, and we'll hopefully see you here with us more often as the season progresses. So my biggest loser this week was the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals came into this game last night without Jamar Chase, but possessing an offense that seemed to be getting its groove back. The offensive line was playing much better, and everyone pointed to them turning the corner. They were going against a team who was bottom of their division, but their this team, the Browns, is still actually quite competitive. The dog pound was in full voice as the Bengals couldn't block for Burrow and got 5 sacks. And then their D line couldn't live with the Browns O line, and Nick Chubb ran for 101 yards on 23 carries with 2 touchdowns. Brissett, he only had 5 incompletions for 278 yards and a touchdown. The Bengals missed a great chance to stay with Baltimore at the top of the division. So we welcome back Justin. Right side up again.
So sorry, guys.
No,
For
that's
whatever
No
reason,
perfect.
worries, no worries.
Yeah, man. So Justin, do you have a biggest loser this weekend?
first, let me give a shout out to Omar Clark in the chat. And he was right because I did miss the 49ers. That win over the Rams, which seems to come like every other game or every game other than that NFC title game, like that was massive, especially trying to gain some ground on the Seahawks. So on the flip side, the biggest losers were the Rams. Like we've talked about it, SoFi just seems like once you're playing an NFC West opponent, it seems like a road game for the Rams. And to go up
Okay, so somehow, Justin, as soon as they brought you full screen, we lost your audio and you went upside down again. This is, yeah, not sure what's happening over on that end, but we'll give him another opportunity to get that taken care of and return. So AJ, least impressive win for this week 8. Who gets the least impressive win for you this week?
Do I have to say it? It's the Broncos once again. Any game the Broncos win is the least impressive win of the week. Any game. I mean, granted, I fully take into consideration that these guys had to travel, and anytime there's a London game, there's always like that like that jet lag and the time having to deal with the time difference and all that. I get it, but least impressive not on the face of how they actually performed on the field, because there were a lot of positives that I guess that team can take from that game, given how they had been in the last few weeks, especially dangerous, right? But again, this is bigger picture. Like you barely hold on to beat the Jags 21-17 in this is not what you and Russell Wilson. This is not what the owners would have been envisioning at the beginning of the season when they paid Russell Wilson and gave him basically like 95% shares in Walmart. This ain't what they were thinking. This ain't what they were thinking, that they'd be scraping to beat the Jags. I don't know. I'm just not impressed anytime I see the Broncos win a game nowadays.
Fair enough. What were you just saying? Least impressive win.
least impressive win. Yeah,
Hmm.
well, he said the Broncos. Um, like is almost like you want to let Russ cook and it's just macaroni that you get in and nothing else to meat. Like, this is absolutely ridiculous, and this is not what the Denver Broncos signed up for when you pay a guy like $245 million. Like that's not what you're expecting. And the thing is, right, Russ has been so anemically bad, right, historically bad, that we have not been able to realize just how good Denver's defense really is. That's how bad he is. Like we're focusing on this guy, and Denver's defense is really, really good.
Good
And
point.
it's weird that they got rid of Bradley Chubb, but we'll get into that shortly. But yeah, it's really Denver, and quite frankly, even before the game started, I am so down on Denver right now. The team who I had on, oddly enough, to win the AFC West. I am so down on Denver right now that I had Jacksonville to win that game. Well, by 2 scores too. So
Whoa.
I am with AJ. Like, the least impressive victory was Denver's in London.
Okay. So I guess it should not surprise both of you that I'm actually going in a different direction because while the Denver win was not very impressive, to be fair, the least impressive win in my estimation this weekend has to be the Falcons. The Falcons, for all intents and purposes, should have lost that game. They had no right winning that game. The only thing that I was actually hoping for when that game went to overtime was a tie. I really wanted that game to tie because neither of those teams to me did enough to win the game. When the Panthers had an opportunity to take the lead in regulation, but DJ Moore decides that he's going to take his helmet off. He made their game-winning PAT so much more difficult, and Eddie Pinheiro missed. Then, when they get into overtime, Atlanta again should have lost. But Pinheiro again missed the game winning field goal, allowing Younghoe Koo the opportunity to kick and win the game for the Falcons. The South is very weak this season, and that is evidenced by the Falcons, the team that everybody expected to suck and suck badly. They are currently leading my division with a 500 record.
It is not like the Falcons are good, Ken. They are sucking badly. It's just that the rest of the division is also bad, including Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
I mean I could have put the Buccaneers in there for the biggest loss, but I didn't feel like dogging on the Buccaneers again this week. I decided to give them a pass because apparently they're not getting enough of those passes from Brady. So
Well played.
no, thank you. So now that we've completed the third down, now we're on to the fourth down, which is the biggest surprise. So AJ, what was your biggest surprise of this footballing weekend?
The Bills. The fact that they only put up 27 points. That's it. I was expecting a lot more. Oh crap, Justin. You know what? This is no disrespect, right? But I was expecting more points. That's the honest truth. That's
I, but
it.
okay,
No,
no, but
based on the actual tempo and flow of the game, a 10-point win doesn't, to me, accurately reflect how that game went. Right? It was a couple of errors from, and one, I don't even know what Josh Allen was doing. He could have thrown the ball away and instead tried to throw it low and then ended up getting picked. Right? Like little things like that. I I I just did not see them making that mistake. I felt like they made the game harder than it needed to be, and that most people expected it to be. I didn't expect a whitewash. I didn't think they would put up like 45 points. You did. No, but I thought they would have at least had 30. 27 and then give up 10 point, like two scores. I don't know. I, the Bills will still be the Bills. I still think they're AFC favorites, but I was like,
Oh yeah, that's it. Who surprised you most this weekend?
ooh, their number like the Falcons, like because I thought after the Panthers, essentially shut out Tom Brady the week before, I was like, all right, well, no, you've put yourself in a position to say this is your division to back into. But the thing is, like, yeah, you know what Atlanta's coming to do. Like, there's no mystique, there's no smoke and mirrors here. Atlanta is coming to run the football. They got Marcus Mariota for that reason because Arthur Smith is of that vintage. You saw what he did when he had Derrick Henry for those 2 or 3 years. He's coming to run the football. Like that's what the team is coming to do. And for Carolina to almost not come prepared for what Atlanta was coming to do is a bit shocking for me. Like as you said, like maybe I'm a bit harsh. If DJ Moore doesn't take off his helmet, like we're probably talking about a different result here. But after basically handing Tampa Bay their behinds, I would not expect then you turn around the very next week, like and another division opponent because a lot of people will say, well, this is a trap game, but it can't be because it's a division opponent. Like, no division team, no division game should ever catch you unaware or unsurprisingly. This is a team you have to face 2 games in a year, and you face them every single year, twice a year. So you should have come prepared. And like to lose this game, that was a big surprise to me for Carolina. I really actually had Carolina to win that game.
Okay, no problem. So my biggest surprise of the weekend, and Justin, you made mention of this earlier, is not that the Rams lost to the 49ers, it is how inept they looked against the 49ers. Now, as I said, that the loss is not a surprise, as they can't beat the Niners in a regular season game. But their vaunted defense, This expensive defense for the LA Rams could not buy a start from the dollar store. Jimmy G went 21 of 25 for 235 yards with two touchdowns. Jimmy Garoppolo, the man that gets vilified and pilloried almost every week because Jimmy does Jimmy things almost every week. Christian McCaffrey went 1 for 1 passing on touch for a touchdown. 18 carries for 94 yards and a touchdown, and 8 receptions for 55 yards and a touchdown. They allowed that man to score every single way possible except for kick return. Aaron Donald was a relative non-factor with 7 tackles, no sacks, no quarterback hits. Jalen Ramsey, the other big name, big money asset that they have on defense, 5 tackles, 2 passes defense. The Rams have now been blown out by the Bills, the Niners twice, and the Cowboys. The Lombardi looks a long way away this season.
But Ken, for me, like this, I guess the way Los Angeles lost the game, I guess it's surprising. But Jimmy G, how he played in this game is not for me, right? And I kind of said it on my old show when Christian McCaffrey, got traded to the 49ers. I said how he is going to be used in a multitude of ways it's going to be used, and the fact that the Niners have so many different options of weapons and the ways in which they use them. I'll tell you this, Los Angeles is lucky that Deebo Samuel didn't play in that game. Different ways in which you're going to use McCaffrey now is going to cause headaches and problems. And the fact that when healthy, in my estimation, George Kittle is the best tight end. So, like we've always said, what are the two best friends for a quarterback who struggles? A tight end and a running back. And you have two elite ones in George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey, and two elite options in which you can use them in so many myriad of ways. As I've said, like we know Jimmy G's limitations right now. But in this offense, man, all you have to do right now with Christian McCaffrey is sit down to everything that is pass oriented just needs to come out of play action. Because your eyes have to be glued on Christian McCaffrey. Then you have the option of there's not like George Kittle is like Travis Kelce, who, if he is in the play, that he's coming to pass catch. No, he's a great blocker. So he can block, he can chip and then release off the back end plays. Like this is problematic. Like, what are you going to do then? What happens when you motion Christian McCaffrey in the slot out wide, or you could just have him next to running to Jimmy G in a delayed handoff, in a shotgun read option snap. This is like how do you defend all of these things? It is going to be so hard because now you're taking Jimmy Garoppolo further out of harm's way because all you're going to do is sit down and say, Jimmy, every single read, every single throw, I want you to come off of play action. And if you don't respect what's going on up front with George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey, the 49ers are just going to run you off the field. They don't even have to throw. We saw that in the NFC title game 3 years ago when Jimmy Garoppolo attempted like 5 passes. They can just run you off the field. Like this 49ers team, right? Yeah, 7. This 49ers team, in my estimation, right now, when healthy, at the very worst, is the second best team in the NFC behind the Philadelphia Eagles when fully healthy.
Okay, interesting. Now we got a few comments that came in. So first we have Signature 33. He said Russell Wilson has been bad, but I've got faith in his end of season run as he always has. Bad starts to his seasons and what always seems to be better play later.
Better you than me, buddy.
So you see how that one plays out. Jared, he came in and he said defense in relation to the biggest surprise this week. He didn't elaborate on what it was with defense, so hopefully he'll give us a little bit more on that. And then Victor, he says that they should trade Jalen Ramsey for Ezekiel Elliott. That's an interesting thought. Very.
So you trade one aging star for even older star?
So yeah,
He's just not high on Zeke.
clearly no. But he does give us a nice segue into talk about the NFL trade deadline day. Now, Usually, the deadline day passes with a whimper, as many teams don't get involved with the making of moves, but there was a change in 2022, as there was a flurry of action, especially over the last 48 hours or so. And while we obviously can't talk about all of the moves, we're going to talk about many of the moves that were made. And Justin, I'm going to come to you first on this one. Are you surprised that your Green Bay Packers did not make any moves to give Aaron Rodgers another target to work with, especially with the rest of your division making moves?
Um, well, they did trade. Apparently, the reports are that they offered the Pittsburgh Steelers, just like the Chicago Bears, a second rounder for Chase Claypool. Sorry, and the Steelers went to the Bears on the thought that although the Bears and the Packers have the same 3-5 record, they expect that the Packers will end up with a better record, and thus the pick will be higher. I'm not sure that's going to happen this season, but that's a conversation for another time. Um, am I surprised? So they did trade, but I'll tell you this, right? One, I didn't think they should because this team has a myriad of problems which start and end with coaching on both sides of the football. And there is no one receiver, one player who was going to put us or change our fortunes, put us over the edge. Like there was one change to me that was going to change our fortunes, and Matt LaFleur, quickly said that's not going to happen, and which is a change at defensive coordinator, get rid of Joe Barry, but he shot that down quickly. So like I am not shocked because here is guys. I think the Packers should have been not just buyers, but they should have been sellers at this trade market. I think everything that is not named Jair Alexander or is not on a rookie contract should have been gone because I fully anticipate as much as Aaron Rodgers has a 4-year deal done. I think that was only done for cap purposes, and I suspect he's going to retire at the end of the season. Hence why Devontae Adams asked to go to Las Vegas, and they had a conversation, and he told him, "I don't know how much longer, if any, I have left here in Green Bay, so go make your way somewhere else." I say all that to say I am not shocked. I'm upset that we actually offered Pittsburgh a second rounder for Chase Claypool because since breaking into the league with a decent, I want to say 9 touchdown performances rookie season, what has Chase Claypool done since? I think in however many career games, it's over 30 now. He only has 12 touchdowns to the point where Pittsburgh was looking to move on because you could say that Chase Claypool right now was their third best receiver. With the rise of Deontay Johnson and the guy George Pickens, rookie, like what was their need? And I think Chase is coming up to contract situation. Like, what am I paying the third best receiver on my team for? And so now to get to that point, sorry to jump into another point. What is Chicago doing giving a second rounder for Chase Claypool? Like that's incompetence at its highest. And I say that to see when you look through the last 2-3 drafts at wide receiver position, these kids are coming in ready, immediate to make an immediate impact in the league. So you can get that production out of the draft. No, you've given up a second rounder for a guy who has scored 3 touchdowns in the last 2 seasons, and you didn't want to spend the money to sign Roquan Smith long term, so you traded him. You got a second round pick. So are you telling me a player like Roquan Smith and Chase Claypool are on the same level? Like it's not making sense.
Understood. So, AJ, now that we know we are talking about Chase Claypool, and Claypool, as Justin mentioned, the Bears have traded him in to try to get some help for Justin Fields with a second round pick. So, what do you think about this particular trade? Because
Well,
Darnell Mooney, before
uh-huh.
they brought in him, he was their top receiver with 25 catches for 364 yards and 0 touchdowns. And then their next wide receiver was Equanimous St. Brown, who had 11 receptions for 164 yards. So, what do you think?
I think along the same lines of what Justin just said. Like he said, yeah, I don't know if you saw me nodding because I agree with basically everything Justin said. I was befuddled that these men would give up a second round pick. I don't know if they felt like getting a second round pick for Roquan Smith meant like they had house money to play with, But who the hell is giving up a second round pick for Chase Claypool? I, listen, Justin already said everything. What has Chase Claypool done to be given to be giving up a second round pick for him? Meanwhile, the Steelers broke even on a man who, again, as Justin already alluded to, it was their third best receiver. Deontay Johnson is top 10 in the league in receptions. George Pickens clearly has a higher ceiling than Chase Claypool. So again, why keep Claypool around? He is a pawn. He's a pawn. So see what you could get for him. And these men really broke even. They got back a second rounder. And the you know what's the first thing that actually came to my mind, and I didn't get a chance to do it today, Ken. I wanted to message Ricky and ask what does the receiving for the next draft, like how is the receiving pool of talent look for the next draft? Because we've seen so many receivers, again, Justin just mentioned, that have come ready to hit the ground running in the NFL. So why in the heck? What what was the purpose? What was the purpose of doing that? And Chase Claypool is not even a number one receiver. So these men are stockpiling twos and threes, and you think that's going to it might make your team marginally better, because from a tactical perspective, I guess now they have someone who could take the top of the defense of opposing defenses to open up a little bit of space for Justin Fields to do his thing. All right, cool. But at the end of the day, we're really talking about Equanimous St. Brown, the second best St. Brown, Darnell Mooney. He's pretty okay, but he's a number two as well. Chase Claypool, who has proven he's a two at best at this point, and then N'Keal Harry. This is their receiving core. This is the Bears receiving core. Like, you really gave up a second rounder to be marginally better. That is one of the dumbest things that I've seen happen today.
So yeah, I mean, I don't really have a lot to add to what you guys have said in relation to this one, because y'all pretty much hit all of the nails through the board, not even just on the head. Because I go on a podcast with some guys out of England almost every week, and at the beginning of the season, I got into it with one of the guys on the pod who is the Steelers fan. I did not know coming in he was a Steelers fan. I said that the Steelers wide receiver core was not very good, and he took me to task at that. Because, as you may mention, AJ Deontay Johnson, he did pretty well last season. But I remember the season before, he led the league in drops.
Drops,
So
yeah.
that was one of the things I was concerned about. Then I brought in Chase Claypool, who looked good in his first season, but hasn't really looked good since. No, a lot of that can be put on the fact that the quarterbacks that he's had throwing him the ball have also not been very good. One of the stats that I saw when I was preparing for this was that Claypool is like top 10 in the league when it comes to contested catch rate. So he can make the catches when someone is on him. He just doesn't always make the catch when nobody's there. So that's another problem that he has. So for Chicago to give up a second round pick to get him is asinine. You would expect that you're giving us second round picks for game changers, for people who are going to come into your franchise and make a noticeable difference on what you have going. Chase Claypool has not shown that he has that level of ability so far in the NFL. And when you take into consideration that he is probably going to a less accurate quarterback, a quarterback that throws probably the least of all quarterbacks in the league, what are we doing? Are we expecting Justin Fields to suddenly become a different player? Is he supposed to suddenly look different because Chase Claypool is there? I honestly don't know. So now we have
Robbery. Steelers win this one easily.
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 So we have the big bad Eagles fan, Dale Haynes. He has joined the chat. Welcome, Dale. Glad to have you as always. So we're gonna stay in the north, and we're going to go to probably I think this might have been the biggest surprise or biggest surprising trade of all today, which was TJ Hawkinson being traded from the Vikings to the Detroit Lions. No, just to give a little background, a little context, the Vikings have lost Irv Smith Jr. to a high ankle sprain for the next 8 to 10 weeks, and now he is on IR. And what I saw, I don't pay attention to the Vikings that closely, but apparently Kirk Cousins is the worst quarterback in the league when it comes to utilizing his tight end. He is 30th in passer rating and 33rd in yards per attempt when targeting tight ends this season out of the 33 qualifying quarterbacks per ESPN Stats and Info. AJ, I see you chomping at the bit. What do we make of this trade?
So, like I mentioned when we were starting, right? I said that I had a range of different reactions with regards to these trades today. For some, it was admiration, and others annoyance, and this is the one that annoyed me severely. My initial reaction was shock because firstly I didn't expect to see TJ going anywhere. And let me preface this by saying this is a lot of emotion for me because I'm a huge fan of TJ Hawkinson. I'm
There's
not
no
trying to
doubt.
act like he's the best tight end in the league or anything like that, but I've just been very high on him since he was drafted. So he's my guy, right?
Hmm.
I didn't expect him to be going anywhere, and the shock of him being traded, it turned to disgust and then to sympathy for Dan Campbell because I can't imagine that Dan Campbell actually wanted this. There's no way, but then again, he doesn't have the final say, right? The Lions' defense is still the defense, but the offense was actually purring, pun intended. If you remember, right? If you remember, prior to us, the Patriots shutting them out, they were actually the number one offense in the league. Now, that being
Hmm.
said, I'm 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 not going to sit here and bloviate and act like TJ was setting the world alight this season. He was actually 35th in receiving yards. He was targeted 43 times, had 26 receptions. Pretty decent. But the thing is, he contributes more. Like when he isn't running roles, like they have him blocking, they have him in that blocking game and whatnot, right? So trading him is one thing, right? But the fact that these men traded in the division when they're not necessarily in a rebuild, I I I I honestly don't know what to make of this, and the way I want to express myself about it, I cannot do right here. This man was a number 8 overall pick in 29, a number 8 pick in 2019. Listen, how is it you're trading one of your biggest assets to a division rival? Not just a division rival, but the team that is ascending in your division has the most explosive offense, and you're allowing them to get better. No, because Ken, we know for sure that these men didn't look at the stats that you just brought up, that
Hmm.
ESPN posted, and knew that, oh, well, you know what? Kirk Cousins is actually not good throwing to tight end, so this won't work out. Let's see what we could get. Nah, they weren't thinking that, right? So the kind of disgust I feel for a team trading a team who's trying to ascend and trying to trend upwards, trading one of their best offensive assets, essentially the best part of their team, to a division rival. Boy, look, I'm so sorry that I even put any sort of faith in the Detroit Lions organization to get anything together. These men are trash. Like I said earlier, the Lions should be relegated. Like this should just be the first NFL team to be like take someone from the CFL, the XFL, anywhere, bring someone else in. But the Lions make absolutely no sense with anything.
Tell us how
There's
you
no way you
really
could tell me
feel.
that the Vikings were the only suitors for TJ Hawkinson. Talk about dumb.
Yeah, yeah, AJ, I believe that was cathartic for you. What were you just saying?
I
This
don't
is
know.
your division, so
I don't know how I follow that. Like you said, it was actually second um most surprising trade he did for me, and we'll get to the most surprising eventually. But like AJ said, I don't know how you trade within your own division and to the team with the best record in division because like yeah, at the end of the day, you're no longer chasing the Packers. Let's be honest, you're chasing the Vikings right now, and you have now made this team's offense that much more, I don't know, explosive because you already have a top 3 receiver in the game in Justin Jefferson, a great number 2, Adam Thielen when he can stay on the field. Same thing with Dalvin Cook. When Dalvin Cook is healthy, that's a top 5 running back in the league. So no, you've given this offense a further, I don't know, dynamic in TJ Hawkinson. And this is the guy, I think he was leading all tight ends in the league in what, with over 15 yards per reception. So that's like stretching the field, and not just stretching the field, but stretching the field as a possession receiver, as if the Minnesota Vikings needed enough weapons as it is. No, initially I understood Detroit making this trade when they saw that they had gotten a second and third rounder for TJ Hawkinson. I said, oh, okay, all right, maybe that's fine. But then when I looked at the complete trade package to see that Minnesota still then got back a third rounder and a conditional fourth, I'm like, what is Detroit doing? And this is one of the staples of your team, because right now, if Detroit can do anything right now, is scoring. And TJ Hawkinson is a big reason for that. Like, him, the DeAndre Swift, my guy Jamal Williams. This has been a pretty potent offense. And Ross St. Brown. I am not as passionate as AJ on this one, because I'm just stunned. I A, did not see it coming. B, did not see it coming within the division. And C, I don't know why the trade was made. I don't know. I know eventually you're going to need draft capital to help with that defense. I just don't understand, when you have a pillar on your offense at a young age, what are you doing moving him and further draft capital to help the best team in your division right now? This is why they're franchises, and they're franchises.
Fair enough. I mean, I I can echo both of you, because I think what the Lions need to do is that they need to probably watch some English Premier League and see how those clubs operate when it comes to, when in this case they don't trade, they sell players, but selling players within their, well, within their rival base. Most of the time that does not happen, because when you send someone to a rival, especially one that you're going to see twice a season, chances are you are putting things in place to cut your own backside in your division. So the stats that I read at the beginning, they are worth noting. But you also know what is worth noting? The fact that, really and truly, if we're going to be honest, the Vikings didn't have a good tight end to really throw the ball to. Irv Smith Jr. is the best that they had, and he was injured quite a bit this season before he went out on IR. So they were not utilizing their tight ends because they didn't have a tight end to utilize. So now you give them a tight end, and the pillars of every offense is that you want to have the quarterback, you want to have a good running back, a wide receiver you can build around, and then have a good tight end to help block and pass catch. So, as you called the names just now, Justin, the Lions had Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, DeAndre Swift, and Jamal
Williams.
Williams. And then they had TJ Hawkinson to give them everything that they would have needed to build an offense. And their offense was dynamic. And guess what? No, they took the tight end out and sent him over to be with Kirk Cousins, Dalvin Cook, and Justin Jefferson. What are we doing? What are we doing,
TJ
Detroit?
Hawkinson is 25 years old.
Like, me,
TJ Hawkinson is 20. It's not even like he's 28 or 2. These men really set this team up to be good for years to come.
Yeah.
when Justin Jefferson takes the top off with a safety, right? And you put safety help. No, you are leaving your underman trying to deal with Dalvin Cook, Adam Thielen, and no TJ Hawkinson. Like, you're going to have God help the rest of our division. That's all I'm going to say.
Yep.
Justin, the reason why I felt so passionately about this is because I was actually starting to give the Lions credit. But to be fair, it was more so how Dan Campbell had the team playing a bit more than them as a franchise. But this kind of brought me back down to, yeah, you know what? Don't be so high. Despite what's going on the field, the Lions will lion. Like I said, Lions is an acronym, you know. It means losing is our nature. So shut up. That that's that's exactly what Lions is. Yeah. Go ahead, Ken.
All right, so we're still sticking in the North because the North was apparently the most active division for these trades, and now we're going back to the Bears. But this one is an outgoing trade. The Baltimore Ravens, they got some defensive help from the Bears, acquiring linebacker Roquan Smith from them for AJ Klein, plus this year's second and fifth round picks. Roquan Smith is the leading tackler in the NFL this season. As part of the deal, the Bears are actually paying Smith $8.33 million, while the Bears are paying him a league minimum $575,000 for the rest of the season. So, Justin, what do we make of this deal? This
It
should
made
make you
sense.
smile.
It made sense for both teams. So let's start with the Bears. The Bears knew, as great as Roquan Smith is, as much as I like him, they knew this team before they traded for Chase Claypool. They know this team is not anywhere close or ready to rebuild or to win games right now. So it didn't make any sense paying him the money he wanted, and he's looking at resetting the inside linebacker market at probably $20 million a year. Like, that's no longer a premier position in the NFL anymore. That's like, it's not a quarterback, it's not a wide receiver, it's not a left tackle, it's not a corner. Like, it's not a pass rusher. This is not a game changing position in the NFL, in this pass happy NFL anymore. So it kind of made sense if you're not going to pay him the big money he wants to get what you can. And getting a second rounder and a fifth rounder, I applaud. Team did well to take that second rounder and then put it in Chase Claypool. No. Anyway, we went over that already. So
Well,
for
just before we move on, just as a point I saw, the second rounder that they traded was their second round pick. It was
Yeah.
not the one that
right,
was traded.
I get that, but still, essentially, you're taking the second round pick and throwing it away anyway. Like, you just got an additional second round pick, and you
Yeah,
just
fair enough.
threw it right back up through the door. So I like the trade for trading Roquan Smith on Chicago, and I also liked it on Baltimore's end. Now, again, it's weird to say again, like they already have a young upcoming inside linebacker in a guy that we should have drafted instead of Jordan Love in Patrick Queen, an end-to-end guy who is like they're now starting to move him around the field more. I see that now he already has 3 sacks, a career high 3 sacks on the season. So I think pairing him with Roquan Smith, now you're going to see them get a lot fancier. They're going to put these players in a lot of different positions, kind of like what we and now Minnesota's doing with Zadarius Smith. Like, you can put Zadarius Smith on the outside as a pass rusher. You can put him at the A gap to start and run. Like, I think you're going to have a lot of different combinations with these two. They're two very good tacklers. They're two very good end-to-end linebackers, and like you can play them in all three downs. I think I like this move because twofold. One, we saw part of Baltimore's big problem this season is holding on to leads. Like, the defense starts for whatever reason with all the talent they have, it just gets ill disciplined towards the second half of games and they lose leads there. I know inside linebacker is not exactly a cover corner, but they needed help on the defensive end. And as I said, like second and most importantly, I think Baltimore is trying to go all in. I don't know if they have the weapons to do that, but I think they're telling themselves, look, we need to compete. The rest of the AFC is just going up and up by the day. So let us try to improve our defense and see if we can go all in and reach another Super Bowl. As I said, I like the move on both ends, especially with the versatility that Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen have at that position.
Okay, what about you, AJ? What did you think about this one?
Yeah, again, Justin kind of echoed basically everything. Not echoed, but he alluded to everything. This is one of those trades that I was kind of like, oh, nice. It wasn't a surprise per se because we all knew that Roquan Smith was going to be on the move. the Bears weren't going to pay him, so they were going to try to get something back for him before he left for absolutely nothing at the end of the season. So we knew he was going to be on the trade block. And when I saw that it was Baltimore that had made the trade, I was like, it's nice. It's a good trade for them. It makes sense. It's solid. Justin just broke everything down there. So I don't need to reiterate, but from a tactical perspective, it definitely does work for them. And the Bears weren't in a position where they were going to keep Roquan, but we already knew that from the beginning of the season, right? So his time was limited there, and the Ravens would have wanted to make it happen. So I think it's a very good move for them, especially given the way I think Justin, you mentioned too, like the fact that they haven't been able to hold on to leads and whatnot. So like defensively, always shoring up that defense is a good move, because offensively you have a dynamic player who can do stuff there. So you need to get the best on the other side of the ball. So, to level things out. And they're not in a position where they're running away with the division either. So getting the best players in, it helps.
Well, I have nothing to add between what we two of you said, so let's just move on to the next one. So we've been talking a little just now about the AFC North. So we move from the North to the AFC East, where the Miami Dolphins have been the most busy team in that division. Today they made two trades, the first being probably the biggest trade of the day. Pass rusher Bradley Chubb from the Denver Broncos has been traded to the Finns for this year's first round pick, next year's fourth round pick, and Chase Edmonds. And the Broncos also sent a 2025 fifth round pick in the deal. The Broncos get back a first round pick after trading away their first round pick to get Russell Wilson, and a running back to add to this table after losing Javonte Williams to an ACL for the rest of the season. So AJ, tell me about this one.
So the Broncos just really looking forward to next season already?
Yeah, pretty much.
that was the first thing that came to mind. Are we giving up Bradley Chubb at this point? We mentioned, or it could have been Justin that mentioned earlier about how well the defense has actually been playing really well, and obviously Bradley Chubb is a huge part of that. So, I mean, to let him go, it sort of sends a message that, yeah, okay, well, you know what? Let's just look forward, and let's look at the long term play here and not short. I guess what surprised me most about the deal is when I saw the details and I saw that Chase Edmonds was included. Like, y'all taking another running back, or another scat back. I mean, so Melvin Gordon has to be wanting to get out of this space right now, because clearly there's nothing here for him. A couple weeks ago, they showed him on the bench sulking because he was behind Mike Boone. Mike Boone gets injured. Mike Boone is injured. Melvin Gordon has a pretty decent game, and then they trade to bring in another. Now, mind you, Melvin Gordon and Chase Edmonds are not of the same ilk, but the fact is they still really brought in someone else to play in that room, and most likely will be ahead of him once again. I was just laughing. This is really funny to me. From the Dolphins' perspective, again, very solid, very good move. I know we'll get into the other trades shortly before I have to head off, hopefully. But I mean, it's good from the Dolphins that they, to me, made trades on both sides.
Okay, what about you, Justin? What do you think about this one?
It's very interesting. You know me, I love draft capital, and I don't like to give it up unless, for high end elite players. I don't have Bradley Chubb in that category, so it was weird to see that they gave up a first and a fifth for Bradley Chubb. I will say this though, I like the aggressiveness in that they feel they have a window to win right now. Whether that's true or not, well, that'll be left to see towards January, possibly February, if that's where they get to. But I thought it was weird, but at least they're being aggressive. Denver's side, also not shocking, because as good as the defense has been, Bradley Chubb over the last 3-4 years has been up and down. Very inconsistent play and has struggled to stay on the field. So when you bring in like Randy Gregory, it's basically the rating was only wrong. Like, you have a stable of pass rushers led by Randy Gregory, and I think Bradley Chubb is looking for a payday. This is a situation where you knew you're not going to pay him, so get the most and getting the first and the fifth rounder. Congratulations. another running back to push Melvin Gordon further through the door. Like, I guess at this point, the three of us could come in our running back room and push him out to Denver as well.
Right.
So like,
Y'all ever watch? I'm sorry, not a Cuddy. Y'all ever watch Goalmember? Austin Powers Goalmember?
of course,
You remember, right? You remember when Mini Me came in and then Scott? Oh, sorry, when Scott was starting to move up the Dr. Eagles ranks and they were like, the little one can't take a hint. Clearly, that's what they're doing to Melvin Gordon. They're just trying to hint. Listen, we don't want you here, bro. We don't want you because they're doing everything possible to get this man out the door. I'm sorry, Justin. That jogged my memory, so I had to bring up the reference.
It's hilarious because that's exactly what they're doing. But so again, I like it on more Denver's end. You didn't figure you were going to pay Bradley Chubb. I guess you can make an argument for either case, whether he should be paid or he shouldn't be paid. So to get back a first rounder for sure for him, like bravo, because he was the 4th overall pick. No, he wasn't even the 4th overall. I think he was definitely a top 10 pick in that very, very bad quarterback class of Baker Mayfield and company. But he had to get back a first rounder for him. That's tremendous on their side, especially considering he wasted first round and all that money on Russell Wilson. And on top of that, like as I said, I like the aggressiveness by Miami. Like everything is saying that they feel that their window is right now for the next 2 years. So they think that maybe Bradley Chubb can help push them over the top. Maybe they're right. I like the move, but more so on Denver's end.
Okay, no problem. So when I saw this move, no, the reason why this one wasn't such a big shock to me is that this was floated about quite a bit before it had come to fruition. No, before I go any further, Signature 33, he says, I wonder what Tom Brady thinks about these Dolphins trades. No. I guess somebody will have to go.
I'm sure he would love to be in that part of South Florida, not the other. Right about no, but hey.
There you go. So Bradley Chubb has not been what Denver expected. He has not lived up to the expectations that they had for him here, and as a result, he did kind of end up being surplus to requirements because they have Randy Gregory, Nick Bonito, Baron Browning, and Jonathan Cooper. Now, outside of Randy Gregory, the others do not have the name recognition of a Bradley Chubb. However, they've been giving pretty good production, especially in rotation, because with Bradley Chubb having shown a certain degree of fragility, they're not going to keep him out there every snap for him to, run himself in the ground. So him being moved on is not that big of a surprise. Then the fact that he now has, as you said, they've regained a first round pick as opposed to what they give up to get Russell Wilson in the first place, then this works out for them pretty good. Now, from the Dolphins' perspective, they're pairing him now with Jalen Phillips, who is a developing edge rusher as well. In this pass happy league, you can't have too many of those. So then we will just see how it goes. Now we're gonna move on then to Jeff Wilson Jr. He is the next pick that was made, next trade made by the Dolphins. They traded him with San Francisco for a 5th-round pick. Now the Niners, they would have been open to moving him after the brilliant start to life in the Bay by Christian McCaffrey and the impending return of Elijah Mitchell. AJ, I know you said that you have to leave shortly, so tell us about this one quickly.
Yeah, sorry guys, I have to actually head out earlier than usual. Sorry about that, Justin. But so I guess part of it for me was a little bit of surprise from one specific aspect is that I didn't I was slightly shocked that the Niners were choosing to stick with Elijah Mitchell over Jeff Wilson. Let me put it that way, because obviously CMC is going to be the number one here. But in terms of like that secondary option, knowing that they like to run the ball, Elijah Mitchell can't stay healthy. So I was a bit surprised in that regard. But from Miami's perspective, it made perfect sense to me. Like Mike McDaniel is getting the band back together. Uh, when I saw Jeff, I was like, okay, it makes sense. You know, the man is trying to work with who has worked with him in the past. He brought back Mostert from arguably like some sort of NFL quicksand because Mostert was nowhere on the radar. All of a sudden now he's like leading Miami, and then so I'm guessing Jeff Wilson is going to slot right in under Mike. Again, I'm not like very much wowed by it, but I think it's solid. Mike McDaniel has his favorites clearly. If he could get Jeff Wilson Jr. anywhere back up to speed the way he did with Raheem Mostert, then it's a good move. It's a good move for. Like I said, the most of the surprise for me was just in. See what I did there? was was just San Francisco actually deciding to stick with because you said Elijah Mitchell will be back soon, but he's not back yet. Story of his career so far. Before I head out, though, let me just mention the last one as well. I must say that that trade, the final trade that you all are going to get into, of I don't want to jump the gun, but still, Naeem Hines to the Bills. That was the most underwhelming of everyone for me. Of everything that happened for me, it it was like a whimper to end the day. I don't see how this makes them any great, much greater than what they have now. Again, another he's like a better version of a better catching version of Devin Singletary, essentially. Um, it's kind of a man move for me. That's it. That being said, guys, I will hand over to you. Depends on how much more time I may have. So, I'll let you know. For now, I'll just ease my way out instead of going off completely. But y'all continue, and we'll see if I can ease back in and just be able to wrap things up.
All right, no problem, sir. So we'll be here. So Justin, tell me now about. Well, first we're still at Jeff Wilson. So tell me what you think about this Jeff Wilson move.
Same thing, like AJ said, like a bit of surprise on the 49ers end in that not only is Elijah Mitchell proven to be a oft injured player, but last I checked, so too does Christian McCaffrey. Like, Christian McCaffrey is not exactly the standard bearer of health. So you have two oft injured running backs and head coach who is known to run running backs into the ground and quarterbacks. So like the one standard bearer for health in Jeff Wilson, one that you know is going to be there week in and week out, is shocking that you would move on from him. That's weird. Granted, obviously, when CMC and Elijah Mitchell are both healthy, they are times better than Jeff Wilson Jr. But I figure you would want to go with the guarantee of getting on the field because as we say in sports, the best ability is availability.
Mm-hmm.
On the other end, again, it's like the Miami 49ers down there. Like, McDaniel's just basically bringing in everyone he knows. And as we know, he was the running game coordinator for the 49ers. So bring in running backs that he knows. Raheem Mostert and now Jeff Wilson Jr. Oddly enough, as great as he was as a running game coordinator, Miami Dolphins have not been able to get that running game going down in South Florida as yet. And maybe they don't really need to because we've seen the explosiveness of Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, what they do. So, I mean, if you just get 3.5 yards per carry, I guess that's enough for what's going on until the playoffs hit and you realize, wait a minute, you may need to really run this football. And I guess that's what Jeff Wilson Jr., that acquisition is all about. As I said, it's not surprising on Miami's end, but the same thing AJ said, that you have two oft injured running backs and you decide to get rid of the only healthy one.
Yeah, it's interesting that the 49ers would do that. And my concern with that move is exactly what you said. Because Christian McCaffrey has not proven himself, especially maybe since his second year in the league, to be consistently able to maintain his body and to stay on the field. No, you have him being the feature back because apparently the only reason that they were doing running back by committee was because it didn't have a running back that they liked that much. Now that Christian McCaffrey is there, he is literally doing everything and he's almost always on the field. So now we're going to see what happens and if he is able to carry that load. Now, the 49ers, I think they're heading into their bye this week. And then the expectation is that Elijah Mitchell is going to be back the following week. He has been on social media talking about how excited he is to be coming back to this completely revamped running back room. I guess the fact that he is now going to be a backup works for his longevity better than him being the feature back there. So we'll see how that goes. This to me just feels like a lateral shift, really and truly. Especially since, well, for Jeff Wilson with Elijah Mitchell coming back, he's the big winner in this entire thing because now he goes to work with a head coach that was his coordinator before, that knows him and is going to be able to get him on the field. And if I remember correctly, when it was he, Mostert, and Elijah Mitchell, he was ahead of Mustard. So chances are, if not this week, but I would expect within the next 2 to 3 weeks, he probably ends up being the number one back down in Miami. Mustard backing him up, and they've already shipped out Chase Edmonds, who wasn't really getting it done there anyway. So from Miami, no, we can still stick with the AFC East. And AJ made mention of this one. The Buffalo Bills, they've executed a trade to get pass catching back Naeem Hines from the Indianapolis Colts in exchange for Zach Moss and their 2023 sixth round pick. Hines joins Devin Singletary and James Cook in the backfield and will hope that he can improve on his production so far this season. He's amassed 36 yards on 18 carries. That's 2 yards per carry for anyone whose math isn't that fast, with 25 receptions for 188 yards in 7 games. Moss has managed 91 yards on 17 carries. How are we rating this trade?
Lateral swap that you just said, like getting a better pass catching version of Devin Singletary. The real thing, as much as there were so many trades happening today, the biggest thing is going to sound weird is the trades that didn't go down. And from the time that we found out that Cam Akers and Rams are on the out, I thought, well, hey, you don't have to pay Cam Akers here, but rent him for 2 seasons maybe. And I mean that in the Buffalo Bills, I thought that was the obvious target for you in that you have problems running the football unless you're playing defensively in that front seven like the Green Bay Packers. But other than that, you have a problem running the football. So I figured, hey, Cam Akers is on the out here. Go and get Cam Akers. And the reason I would not mind Buffalo giving up a second rounder in that instance is because this is a team who has Super Bowl aspirations, not just aspirations, expectations. Like everyone starting the season had this team pegged as the best team in football with the best odds to win a Super Bowl. And if that's the case, I think you should leave no stone unturned. And as great as this roster is with very few weaknesses, there is one notable one. And I figured if that is a problem, then you target Cam Akers. So to answer your question, like Naeem Hines moving, like really, like I saw this trade and I was like, oh, meh, doesn't do anything for either side.
Yeah, I kind of agree. No, Zach Moss has been, well, I can't even say he's a disappointment because really and truly there weren't many expectations for him in Buffalo. And as you said, Buffalo's biggest weakness is the fact that they have to depend on Josh Allen to do everything. Josh Allen has to pass the ball, Josh Allen has to run the ball. It's a wonder that he hasn't figured out yet how to catch the ball, and that they would probably have him doing that too. So now they bring in Naeem Hines, who every time you put expectations on him when he was with the Colts, he has disappointed. He has not been consistent in any shape, form, or fashion. And now you bring him in to do what exactly? Because he's just another undersized back that doesn't necessarily play with the amount of power that you'd want him to play with because he's not here running men over. He does very well in the passing game, but so does Devin Singletary. So What are we doing? The one thing that I was very happy about when this trade happened, and as you said, this is about the trade that did not occur. Because before the games played on Sunday, there was a rumor that I did not like very much. I did not like it at all. And I, you can ask some of my friends on WhatsApp how I was today. I was nervous. I was watching the clock and begging it to hurry up and hit 2 p.m. here on the mountaintop so that number 41, Alvin Kamara, would not be on the move because apparently Buffalo called and asked about his availability. Now, I knew that the Saints were saying that they were not putting Alvin Kamara on the market, but apparently they were still listening to phone calls. And if you're listening to phone calls, somebody might just come in with something that blows your doors away, and then you say, well, fine. If you're going to give up the farm, I guess we can let him go. But nobody gave up the farm, apparently. And my guy is still home. So I'm very happy that Naeem Hines has gone to the Bills because that means that they were not going to call me.
And that's the thing. For me, as many trades went down, it was today was about the trades that didn't happen. We all heard speculation that your guy was going to go. Like Alvin Kamara wasn't traded, Cam Akers wasn't traded, neither was Elijah Moore. He wasn't traded. Like there are so many players out there, Cam Akers, and we all thought these players are definitely going to be on the move. And I guess when you look at it, it all came down to the contenders because the contenders who feel which player can put them over the top. And that's why I thought Buffalo would have been in the market for either Alvin Kamara or Cam Akers. So it shocked me that neither guy moved. It was a bit weird, especially hearing all the trade rumors, especially on Cam Akers and like Alvin Kamara was like a recent rumor. But on
Mm-hmm.
Cam Akers, this is a guy who's what like not played for the last 2 weeks,
2 weeks. Mm-hmm.
and
I
and
was
you know
unhappy for 4.
basically, and you kind of know that that is a marriage has come to an end. So not being able to move Cam Akers was weird, especially if I'm Buffalo. Yes, in my estimation, Alvin Kamara is a better player, but Cam Akers has less wear and tear, and even though he did miss an entire full season due to knee injury, but he's younger. I don't have to pay him immediately. Like right now, Kamara comes with a hefty price tag.
For sure.
I thought Cam Akers was the clear play, especially as Alvin Kamara is not Naeem Hines. He's a bit bigger, but he's not that guy. He's not Belko back. Cam Akers is. Cam Akers is a guy that you can hand off 20 times a game. Obviously, Buffalo doesn't want to do that. But when it gets cold, especially out there in North New York, we both know it gets really, really cold and it's all possession football. Cam Akers, I think, is a perfect complement to what they do. Like, I can hit you quick, but then, no, I took my quick lead. No, I want to ice that lead. And you saw that against Green Bay when Buffalo had problems putting us away. Like, no, I can hand off to Cam Akers and when I build a 2 touchdown lead and put a game away. So not going after Cam Akers is just a tad weird for me.
Understood. So there was one other trade to me. This probably would go down as the most surprising of the lot. This is the last one we're going to talk about because there were some other trades that did happen today, but in the grand scheme of things, they don't shift the needle to the level that this one does. And this is Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley is the suspended wide receiver of the Atlanta Falcons, who they decided to trade or was traded for by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Ridley is currently amid an indefinite suspension since 2021 for gambling on his team and can seek reinstatement on or after February 15th, 2023. In other words, he was definitely not playing at all this season. The compensation for this trade is a 2023 fifth round pick and a 2024 conditional fourth round pick. The conditions on this pick are as follows. If he stays on the team, it will be a fourth round pick. If Ridley hits certain incentives, it progresses to a third round pick. And if Ridley signs an extension with the Jaguars, it becomes a second round pick. His current contract expires after this 2023 season and is fully non guaranteed, meaning he can be cut with no dead cap hit. So tell me about this one, Justin. How do you feel about Ridley? going
Remember, I
from.
said there was the most shocking trade of the season. This was definitely it. Because I mean, first thing first, right? You're trading for a guy who is not going to play this season. That's known. He's not playing this season at all due to suspension. So clearly, this is a future building process. You're looking down the road.
Mhm.
But my thing is, as bad as the Jacksonville Jaguars have played over the last 3-4 weeks, the AFC South still is up for grabs. So I thought anything you would do, you would look to still contend right now. The most and as much as you're trading for a player who A is not going to play this season and B has no certain future going forward, that's not even the most surprising part of this trade. This guy was suspended. I know you didn't realize this. Calvin Ridley was suspended for betting on the Falcons beating the Jaguars, who then turned around and traded for him.
I
You
did not
cannot
know
make this
that.
up. You can't make this crap up. This guy bet on the Atlanta Falcons to beat the Jaguars and then got traded to the same team that he bet against. You can't make this stuff up, Ken, if you try. I'm like, what? What is so else? The amount of laughing I did, I could not control myself. I don't know what's going on in Jacksonville. I don't know what. I mean, Calvin Ridley is a solid player. Like you said, there's so many protections for your team where this trade is concerned, so it's not like a huge risk if he doesn't, if he doesn't make it off the exemption list or whatever list that Roger Goodell calls itself now. But you're trading for a suspended player who was suspended because he bet against you. Wow. That's all I can
Yeah,
say.
yeah, I did not know that it was that he bet on his former employers to beat his current employers. That is a new wrinkle for me. But the thing that I thought about where it came to this Calvin Ridley trade is that Calvin Ridley has now not played football. He's probably, well, not probably. He will not have played football for a year and a half before he is eligible to come off of suspension. We don't know what Calvin Ridley is going to look like when he returns. When he was fit and healthy before he decided that he was going to step away from mental health issues, which preceded the gambling that got him suspended and kicked out of the league for this time. We didn't know what he was going to look like, and even if he was going to come back. But apparently, he's going to come back, just like how AJ has come back. Welcome back, AJ. Glad to have you
Perfect,
back, sir.
perfect, perfect.
Yeah, so
Right in time. Right in
right on
time.
time.
Right.
So I mean, when we look at what the Jaguars are doing, like this is something that you would have expected that they would have done while they still had Urban Meyer. This is the kind of craziness that they did when they had that crazy man as their head coach. And now they're still doing it when Urban Meyer's out the door. So AJ, I could keep going, but I'll let you get a piece on this Calvin Ridley to Jacksonville story.
This is one I feel like I had not fully processed as yet, Like I saw it and I was kind of like, huh, well, this is interesting because I had completely forgotten about Calvin Ridley and his year-long suspension for trying to make some side money. Um, I I guess so I came in and was able to hear you all discussing and saying that you don't know what he will look like when he comes back. And I think that is a very fair point. I'm a little bit more optimistic that he will be maybe even if it's not as good as he's shown at the Falcons, but I think he still will improve that offense. Honestly, I do. Um, Even though he would have been out for such a long time, I still think that the talent is not his talent is not in question to me. And luckily for him, he doesn't have to play under Urban Meyer, so he will have a chance to be in. I think a better offense and a better system with a better head coach. Not like he was under Urban Meyer before, but still, I'm 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 not as down on it as you guys are. I think it's decent with the it seems. Wait, what did they give up? What did they give up? That I can't recall.
Right, so they gave up a fifth round pick in this year's draft and a conditional fourth round pick for next year, where if he's still on the team, it stays as a fourth. If he meets certain incentives, it becomes a third. And then if they resign him, if they sign him to an extension, it becomes a second round pick.
Okay. So I don't mind it too much. It seems low risk, high reward. So I'm okay with it.
Oh, but you didn't hear the reason I was laughing to begin with.
No, I
Do
didn't.
you know the reason why Calvin Ridley was suspended?
Yeah, it wasn't for gambling or some kind of thing like that.
It was gambling for the Atlanta Falcons to beat the Jacksonville Jaguars, who have now traded for him.
All right, wait. Some something's afoot here. Something is afoot. You know what?
Yeah, so that is the NFL deadline day, NFL trade conversation. So, fellas, we've been here for a while, but there's no way that we can get out of here without running over to the NBA because the news broke this morning that the Brooklyn Nets head coach Steve Nash has agreed to terminate his contract with the team. In other words, they said we're going to fire you, and he said okay. The Nets have failed to live up to expectations under Nash, as many thought that a roster containing Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and at first James Harden, and now Ben Simmons, would be around the top of the Eastern Conference and challenging for the NBA title. They made the playoffs in his 2 seasons in charge, but won one playoff series and got swept in the first round last year by the Boston Celtics. They were the number 2 seed in the 2021 season, but were bounced out by the eventual champions Milwaukee Bucks. They've started this season 2-5. Justin, is there any sympathy to be found for Steve Nash?
No. And the thing is, there are not many bigger Suns fans than I am. And I love Steve Nash, the player, but I don't like Steve Nash, the coach. The first thing is, right, guys, and I hope this doesn't make anyone feel uncomfortable, but I'm going to say this. I am tired of seeing white men getting jobs that they do not deserve. And for the last 2 seasons, Steve Nash was the poster child for that. You have a man who has no coaching experience, whether it was in college, whether it was as an NBA head coach, whether it was as a G League head coach, whether it was as an NBA assistant coach. This man had absolutely no coaching experience whatsoever. And it isn't to see like, all right, whereas I would have no problem, let's say he came in with a young team like the Atlanta Hawks. This man was gift wrapped a title contender, or at least a supposed title contender, with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving to start with. They traded for James Harden and then ended up with Ben Simmons, as you correctly said. You were gift wrapped a title contender. How many black coaches in both the NFL and the NBA have to fight so hard just to get a chance to be a head coach? Far less the head coach of a supposed title contender in a massive media market like New York. Like who gets that? Which black head coach would have gotten that as their first head coaching job? Absolutely none. So I do not feel for Steve Nash in the slightest because he never deserved this job. And then on top of never deserving the job, he proved that he did not deserve the job. Now, granted, it's ironic enough that I think he leaves with the highest winning percentage of any head coach in Brooklyn Nets history. But that just goes to prove my other point, which is this team's culture is toxic. If they even have a culture to begin with. If there is a culture, it is toxic. And I'm just going to go through the situations. Like right now, it is almost like Sean Marks is just hiring his friends because he hired Steve Nash. And now the reports are that he is going to give the job to his other friend in Ime Udoka. Now, granted, Ime Udoka at least last season proved that he is worthy of such a job by taking the Boston Celtics all the way to the NBA Finals, and they held a 2-1 lead on the eventual champion Golden State Warriors. But like again, that you're showing that you just are giving your friends jobs. You have a situation with Ime Udoka, the stain of whatever he did in that Boston franchise, that's not even dried a good however long. and now you're giving him another opportunity without. I mean, I'm not one against second chances, and none of us outside the Boston organization fully understand what has happened. But the reaction to what has happened is bad enough for me to understand that this is not as simple as we think it is. Like when I hear people like Matt Barnes initially defend Ime Udoka and then turn around and said, no, what's going on there was just terrible, and he prays and hopes for the well wishes of the women and who have been affected in this organization. This tells me it's not a good situation that's going on. So I want to get back to the lack of a culture in Brooklyn. Like that team had a respectable head coach in Kenny Atkinson, who then said, I want no part of what's going on there, and left within his first year with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. They bring in a former head coach to be Steve Nash's lead assistant in Mike D'Antoni, or consultant, whatever you want to call D'Antoni. After a year, D'Antoni said, I don't want what is going on here. I ain't going through the door. Same thing with Amari Stoudemire, and yet another friend of Sean Marks. And he too said, I don't want a part of what's going on here. I'm going through the door. This is an anemic, underachieving, toxic franchise who does not have a clear direction going forward of what the hell they're doing. Steve Nash had no clue on what he was doing offensively nor defensively. He did not have a system in place. It is either Kevin Durant or Kyrie Irving going one-on-one. Does not know what he was doing with Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons right now is done. The acquisition, they let Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant call the initial shots. Let them trick them into training for or signing DeAndre Jordan and realize that's a wash. Bring in friend after friend. Brian James Harden didn't work out. This franchise is in need of clear direction. And right now, right, as much as I like Sean Marks in person, I think the next person that really should go is Sean Marks, because he does not know what the hell he's doing with his team.
What about you, AJ? Tell me about this trade from your perspective, because you know KD is your guy, so you actually have a little skin in this game.
First of all, retweet everything that Justin just said. 'Cause that's a very huge part of it. I will just expand or expound on some points that he, not even expound, but just reiterate some points that he made. Right, this man never even coached his daughter's basketball team. What right did he have coaching an NBA team? And you can look at it from the perspective of, well, you know what? They offered him the job. Why shouldn't he try? Okay, cool. Well, when you realize that you don't know what the hell you were doing, why didn't you leave then? Why did it have to take this long? In the first case, Justin is right. Like, Sean Marks needs to be held accountable in the first case for hiring this man with absolutely no kind of resume. Secondly, why did it take so long to why was Sean Marks doubling down on the idiocy? Why did it take so long to let him go? We've all looked at the Nets enough to know that they actually have no. And Justin said this too. There's no plan offensively. They do nothing. They put the ball in KD or Kyrie's hands. And let me mention this, right? People can say what they want about KD or Kyrie's character off the court. You know, on the court, currently, up just this season, as bad as the Nets are, leading scorers, Kevin Durant is 6th, Kyrie's 11th. Right? They're the only team to have two. They have two of the highest scores in the league, essentially. No other team has two scores this high, right?
Two high scorers right now. These two are shooting the basketball so efficiently at that. But continue.
Exactly. No, thank you. So I'm just going to show you. So with regards to what actually is taking place on the court, they have these two individuals, yet the team is still garbage because they're not being coached. They haven't been coached for a while. It is really these guys just get these two superstars just getting on the court and doing whatever it is. There's no offensive system. They don't run any plays. There's no defensive structure. So what was Nash actually doing? What was Nash? And listen, a little bit of this is because I don't like Steve Nash, you know, and a lot of that is because he's a Tottenham fan. Justin, listen. I can't stand you for that. And then because of that, I always like nitpick at the fact that he could never stop Tony Parker, and the Spurs would always get the best of the Suns because Parker would drop like 40 points when he never used to even average that in a season. He used to be averaging that in a series against Steve Nash. He couldn't play no damn defense against Tony Parker, but I digress. Steve Nash didn't deserve the job in the first place, and I'm a little annoyed that it took this long for him to get the sack. I don't necessarily like calling for men's jobs, but Steve Nash, you didn't have no right being there in the first case. Go and get some experience and then come back. Like, go coach somewhere else. Not an NBA team who is supposedly trying to look towards a chip. He ain't ready for that. He's not. And I will end the same way Justin did, pointing the finger back at Sean Marks. Is Sean Marks even ready for this?
So it is nice. This is Ken speaking. It is nice when I don't have to be the one that brings the flamethrower. When somebody else brings it, and I can sit back and say yes, tell him, and I don't have no to come and do much or say much. No, Dale, he agrees with what both of you say, and he's saying that Stephen A said it at the beginning. But I mean, this is one of those things that nobody should be getting a salary for saying that Steve Nash was not going to be a good coach. We had nothing at all to point to Steve Nash being a good coach. And the question I asked when we started this, is there any sympathy to be felt for Steve Nash? There is none. Sympathy does not live here. Steve Nash had given the only person in the league, as far as it was concerned, that should have been happy that Steve Nash was a coach was Mike Budenholzer. Because with Steve Nash in the league, Mike Budenholzer suddenly was the second worst coach in the league. Now he's back to being the worst because Steve Nash has been fired. The only reason that Mike Budenholzer
would like to have a word with you, by the way.
I'm not even here for that. Doc Rivers is not
Justin, this man has a vendetta against Coach Bud, though.
Don't get me wrong, though. I have seen the worst of Coach Bud. Don't get me wrong, and boy, is it bad. But at least he can say he has an NBA title, all that. Obviously, credit goes to Giannis, but he has an NBA title.
That was about to say, what helps Coach Bud, right? Compared to what happened with Nash is the roster construction, which points right back to Sean Marks, as you guys have been saying. Bud has a superstar in Giannis, and then he filled around him with snipers, men that could do whatever and leave the inside of the paint open for Giannis to drive and do what he has to do. I say that Bud is the second worst coach, and now the worst coach in the NBA, and every year that they get to the playoffs, he's the worst coach in the playoffs, because you cannot tell me that every single time we get to a point where things start to get a little tight, it cannot be give the ball to Giannis, everybody stand on the perimeter, and let Giannis make all the decisions. But that is what Steve Nash was trying to do in Brooklyn with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, where the Bucks are trying to go 1-5. Therefore, when Giannis drives and everybody collapses on the paint, he can find a shooter on the outside. Then when they go 2-5, it's like, is Kyrie going to go ISO or is Kevin Durant going to go ISO? And when they go ISO, it's not even as if to say that there's movement happening around them for the ball to go to somebody else if they get bogged down. No, you get the ball, you go 1-on-1, you make something happen, and try to get a shot up, because chances are there's not going to be anybody open to get a shot up if nothing happens for you on that possession. So I have no sympathy for Steve Nash. You guys have so eloquently stated all of the reasons why I would have none, and I don't need to go back through all of that. I'm just not sorry that he's gone.
I'm not. You know, the man still had the audacity to get himself thrown out of a game for arguing with a ref. Bruh, you can't even do your job. Are you arguing with the refs about not being able to do this? The caucasity of it. Steve Nash, boy, jump in a hole, dude.
The caucasity. But yeah, it's just a lack of a winning culture a lack of a culture. Period. Like, what is the culture in that Brooklyn Nets organization? And the thing is, I was talking about it a couple shows ago. Like, the construction of the locker room at that. There's no on or off court leader. Like, who is it? Kevin Durant has never been that guy for as talented and as an all-time great scorer that he is, all-time great player that he is, top 15 or 20 in my estimation. Like, Kevin Durant is not that voice in the locker room that you want. Kyrie Irving, as we know, has his off-court stuff that he'd rather deal with than being an on-court leader. Like, your two best players are not that guy. Ben Simmons, boy, oh boy, I don't even know if he even likes basketball at this point in time. And then you look through
I am
roster.
so glad you just said that because I was freaking out thinking that it was only me that was thinking this way. Bless you. I was wondering if it was only me because this man can't like basketball that much.
I'm beginning to wonder because you've heard the rumors when he was first at LSU that he was not a team guy. He was not really in love with basketball. That he was a self guy. Then you saw the situation how it played out in Philadelphia when, you know, it's clearly mental for him right now, where he can't look at the basket, he doesn't want to shoot, doesn't want to do anything, and he tries to make it not about himself or tries to try to take the blame for what happened in Philadelphia. So I know you're seeing the shell of what is being paid a max player. Like I don't know if this man really likes basketball or is just about the notoriety and the money. Like I have to ask myself that, and I'm not one that prides myself on knowing what players think or how they feel, but a lot points towards me questioning whether Ben Simmons likes basketball. But back to the culture of this organization, like there's no leadership on court. Like, who's going to be the voice of that locker room? Patty Mills, Royce O'Neal. Like these are role players. Joe Harris is not that guy. Like, there's no on court leadership. Sean Marks has allowed Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving to tell him what the direction of the franchise is. Before then, Sean Marks will appear during the whole pandemic situation with Kyrie Irving, and then still had to bring him back when he opted into the contract anyhow. And like, I don't know, like, ownership is not strong, general manager is not strong because he's only bringing his friends first, Steve Nash and Ime Udoka. Then, kowtowing to Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. This team suffers from a lack of identity and a lack of culture of winning. And until you get a strong voice, I guess that's why they're bringing Ime Udoka, because he is a strong voice in the locker room. But I think until they get strong leadership in the front office as well, like, you're just gonna see like one fiasco after another in Brooklyn.
So we have some comments here from Dale again. Dale, he agrees with you. He says solid point, Justin, about Ben at LSU. Then he asked the question, whoa, the Nets are worse than the Knicks. For those who don't know, Dale is a Knicks fan. And then he asked again, or the Knicks are less bad. Well, I mean, the Knicks, they have a problematic owner, but outside of the owner, they tend not to screw things up on the court like how Brooklyn has been screwing things up on the court. So I guess we can give them some credit for that, at least. Now, I wish we had some time that we could have gotten into this whole Ime Udoka situation, him going over to Brooklyn, but our time is far spent. So we'll have to save that conversation till after he's hired, because the rumor is that within the next 24 to 48 hours, he will be confirmed as the head coach of the Nets, which we have to see what that means for the head coach situation with the Celtics. But again, that is a conversation for another day. So, Justin, before we get out of here, tell the
Wait,
folks
wait.
where
Sorry,
they can.
before Justin gives his plug, because I actually wanted to make basically like add on to his point that he was making about Ben. I'd kind of really want to talk about Ben Simmons for just a quick sec, right? Because
Sure.
Justin, I actually had this in to talk about in our overreaction segment, but based on how today turned out in the NFL, like I knew we wouldn't have gotten around to it. I just want to add, like, this is nothing for a back and forth con. I just want to add to what you said, right? I wondered the same thing, and I've really come to terms because I wasn't actually a Ben Simmons fan. I thought that this man had some potential. He missed what would have been his rookie year due to injury and whatnot, and then I was like, yo, this boy is actually talented. What I've come to realize is that Ben Simmons, as talented as he is, does not have the mentality it takes to be a professional basketballer at this level. Let me say it like that. I think he's talented enough to play professional basketball, but not in the NBA, not at the highest level. Like I said that he should be playing in Orlando, he should probably be playing in Shanghai. Like he can actually play professional basketball somewhere, but he's not ready. He's not. And you mentioned the fact that it stems all the way back to LSU. That is a very salient point. And then going forward, every time the going gets tough, Ben Simmons gets going. He's never up for a challenge. And just going back to last season in that playoff series against the Celtics, in which they were swept, when we heard that Ben Simmons was good enough to play, was it game 3 or 4, whichever one, and all of a sudden he didn't play the game because obviously the team was under the caution, they were facing elimination. Ben Simmons ain't in the game, and then look, this season the man can't even score a layup. I don't care what back injury you have. As long as you are fit enough to be on the court, you should not be airballing layups. I don't think that Ben Simmons is ready for professional basketball in the NBA. He just isn't. This is not just about talent at this level. You need to have a specific mindset, and Ben Simmons does not have it. I am sorry. Justin, you may plug in your your info now. I just had to get out off of my chest as well. Ben Simmons is so annoying.
Get it off your chest, brother. It's calming for the soul.
It's true. So yeah, Justin, tell us where we can find you, how we can find you. Go ahead.
Yeah, not a traditional podcast like this great gentlemen are, but I'm always happy. It's always a pleasure to be here to talk sports with these guys, my Caribbean, basically Bajan brothers. So thanks as usual for having me on. As you all know, if y'all really want a good sports debate, GreenBaje podcast is the place to go. But again, if you have free times on Monday night, 7 p.m. Central, oh my God, I can't remember my own times. 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern. We are live on YouTube. That's on every Monday. Hashtag this just in. Please put in the hashtag. None of us want Max Kellerman's cold tapes. We are the original hashtag this just in. We are indeed on YouTube. We are not on streaming platforms. But if you want our short form content, you can hit us up on Twitter. You can hit us up on Instagram. You can also check us on Facebook. That's hashtag this just in. Every Monday night, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern.
All right. And of course, go check it out. I've been on This Just In a few times. It's always a great time over there. They do some good stuff. So
we gotta get AJ back on. You gotta get this rivalry back on. We gotta talk. Especially, no, Ray, I'm gonna wait for a particular Tom Brady episode to get y'all two guys back on together.
Can't wait.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, Bart Scott.
Yeah, it's true. It's always good when there's a referee, because when there's no referee, we will be a little bit more reserved. But when there's a referee there, then we can let it go. So AJ, you are going to be out for the next 2 weeks. You are going to be traveling with the madam. I was a little premature last week, but I know you got it right this week.
Yes, so, it is. Yeah, I will be out next week. Next week. What is it? Next week. Yeah, I will be traveling for the anniversary. Sorry, I was just checking the date to make sure. So yeah.
Yeah, you had told me.
I know the date. Don't give me the look. Man. She next to me like. No, let me see the look. I remember the date. I just did not. You know what?
Let's go ahead and end this before.
Yeah, let's.
It's a little too far, so I can't put you on my couch. So, as always, that is AJ. He is the Green. I am Ken. I am the Beige. That was Justin of This Just In, and I will see you next time.